Hey, you know what kids like? Fart jokes! You know what causes fart jokes? Butts! You know what has nothing to do with that? Aliens! Let's make a cartoon about that. And thus, the Butt Ugly Martians was born.
Nuclear. It's pronounced nuclear.
So, everyone's pretty familiar with Norm of the North, right? That animated bomb created by a couple little-known animation studios that everyone hated? Well, have you ever wondered what the companies behind this movie were up to before they created that cinematic masterpiece? All the first company, Assemblage Entertainment, did was Binky Bill the Movie, a little-known movie about a koala or something that came out last year and has the least grammatically correct Wikipedia entry of all time. The other country, Splash Entertainment, was actually up to quite a bit. They made a He-Man remake, a couple movies about a Barbie ripoff, and one of the greatest masterpieces of animation ever created, one of the most fine-tuned, beautiful, deep, and complex cartoons of the last century, the forever classic but ugly Martians. Okay, but seriously, this show is awful.
B-K-M! B-K-M!
Have you ever wanted to know what it was like for your eyes to vomit? Well, now you can, thanks to the brilliant CG artists at Splash Entertainment. This show's art is like Jimmy Neutron, if Jimmy Neutron was supposed to look like crud. I mean, don't get me wrong, Jimmy Neutron looks like crud anyway, but nothing compares to the character design in this show. I mean, I don't know what the Martian designs were based off of, but my vomit looks much better than them. And I should know, because I became well acquainted with my vomit after one episode of this show. But seriously, this cartoon is not good looking. I could spend hours talking about that, but it isn't exactly hard to see how bad this show looks. So instead, let's talk about the gripping narrative presented in each episode of the Butt Ugly Martians. Wow, I don't think it's possible to say that with a straight face. The premise of this show, at its most basic level, isn't that bad. I mean, I'm sure even a rabbit that could work a pencil could write something more interesting, but then again, a rabbit that could work a pencil would not be wasting its time on the Butt Ugly Martians. Basically, there are these Martians that want to take over the Earth incredibly badly, because Earth is clearly the greatest location of all time. I mean, who wouldn't want to live on our beautiful planet? Anyway, for whatever reason, the three Martians sent to take over the planet like it on Earth. So they have to keep sending these phony progress reports to their super wacky and cray-cray emperor while they slack off on Earth. There's also this evil doctor who keeps trying to expose the Martians for betraying the emperor, but we'll talk about him more later. If you know anything about this show, and odds are you probably don't, it's the theme song. The tune sounds like some kind of techno-military march rap hybrid. The animation is just clipped from the episodes. It obviously looks like crud, and the lyrics are memorable, but for all the wrong reasons.
We don't really want a war. I just want a hoverboard. We don't want to conquer Earth.
I just want to fill my girth.
Get it? It's funny cause he's fat! And of course, there's the repetition of the phrase BKM.
B-K-M! B-K-M!
This stands for butt kicking mode, but I couldn't find anywhere in the show where they pointed that out, as if you're just supposed to know what it means. I mean, when I first heard it, I thought they had somehow misspelled the initials for their show as BKM instead of BUM. The three Martians are named Bebop Aluna, Tutti Frutti, and Do Wah Diddy, which I'm pretty sure are all music references or something, but I don't care enough to look into that. Bebop is the stereotyped leader who always comes up with some wacky excuse for the crazy shenanigans he and his friends get into.
We were only making friends with the Earthlings in order to infiltrate and learn about their secret weapons, but Damage hid that from you and made you think that we were disloyal.
Tutti is the stereotyped MacGyver who builds all the crazy plot devices, gadgets that the Martians use, including a robot dog named Dog, that is literally a walking plot mechanism. Then there's Doo-Wah, who's the stereotyped Patrick Star clone.
I just wanna feel my girth, feel my girth.
Bebop is voiced by Charlie Schlatter, who was Ace Bunny in the famous Lunatics Unleashed.
Relaxing and take, slam and duck. Ace is cool and leads the pack. Laser sword strikes them back.
And was also considered to play the part of Fry in Futurama. Although it's pretty obvious his career took a nosedive after they chose Billy West instead, considering this is where he ended up. Then we've got Ron Paulson as 2T and Jess Harnell as Doo-Wah. We also have 3 human characters. There's Mike, a whiny brat who's lazy, bad at everything, and voiced by Ron Paulson giving the worst performance of his life. Then there's Angela, who's the girl. I mean, there's literally only 2 girls on the entire show, so saying that is distinctive enough. She's voiced by Kath Soucie, who was Lola Bunny in Space Jam! And then there's Cedric. He's the black kid. He's voiced by Oogie Banks, who played a bunch of roles I don't care about. Oh, and then there's Stolt Muldoon, the secret agent hunting comic relief that they force into every single episode of the show, even though he really shouldn't be in half of them. To be honest though, he's the only one who gets any decent lines, and can, on the very, very rare occasion, be marginally comedic. He's voiced by Robert Stack, and this is his only appearance as a major role in the cartoon. Finally, we have our villains. There's Emperor Bog, the gullible leader of the Martians who talks in the weirdest voice ever, and Dr. Damage, who is a scientist and the assistant of Bog, who is bent on destroying the Martians. As you can see, there is nothing noteworthy about them, so let's move on and... wait a minute.
Your Highness, we've just received a progress report from your illustrious forces on Earth.
Hades? Hades is in this show? What? Yes, both Bog and Dr. Damage are voiced by S. Scott Bullock, who was Hades in Kid Icarus Uprising. And for some strange reason I can't figure out, his Dr. Damage voice is identical to the voice he does for Hades. It sounds so weird hearing that voice come out of this abomination, and yet it's probably one of the only entertaining things in this entire cartoon. Oh yeah, and Terminator's in this show too.
Consider the conquest of Earth done.
Of course, he's not called Terminator though. They gave him a much better name.
Invincible, infinite 5,000...
Hades, you can do so much better. According to the most reliable source on Butt Ugly Martian's knowledge I could find, this is the Butt Ugly Martian's most powerful foe. And yet, they managed to beat 3 of them in like 5 minutes. Are you kidding me? The humor in this show isn't terrible, but it's not good in any way. Most of the jokes fall under 3 categories. 1, alright. 2, pretty mediocre. And 3...
Hold him, Doo-Wah.
He's resting quietly now.
But the major problem is the formulaic plot. The root of this problem is actually the BKM thing from the theme song. This is the Super Saiyan mode they can go into after a boring 30-second transformation scene that plays in every episode that tries to make the Martians sound like the second coming of Christ.
Sent to conquer planet Earth. Our mission is now to protect it. Courage to fight for freedom.
Wisdom to use these powers for the good of mankind.
Power to defend against all invaders!
Let's get ugly!
I just don't understand how that and this can be in the same show. Anyways, after this sequence, the Martians essentially become unbeatable, and I mean unbeatable. They pretty much never lose when they enter this mode, and yet they always spend the first 7/8 of the episode in normal form. What's the point? The show never sets any limits on the power, so why don't they just stay in this form at all times? And because of this, all tension disappears from the show, and it melts the show down to one basic formula. Enemy plus Earth equals trouble. Trouble plus Martians equals more trouble. More trouble times BKM equals 0. Let me simplify that. There's a bad guy who somehow endangers the Earth. This creates trouble. The Martians try to stop the trouble, and it leads to more trouble. And in the end, the Martians go Super Saiyan and all of the trouble dissolves in thin air. Oh, and they somehow force Muldoon into all of that too. I suppose the last thing to talk about is the music. And surprise, surprise, it sucks. The background music is forgettable, the theme song is terrible, and did I mention that the Martians also sing songs? Here's one of them.
Feelings never mattered, hearts were shattered, can't remember their names. Down at the mall, away from my call, nothing but ugly games. A real tough guy, I never even cried, even though I felt the pain. Two-timing girls, that was my world, nothing but ugly games. You came, you saw, you conquered me. It was love's persuasion. I knew that you were meant for me. It's a love invasion.
When we're together now, you make me feel somehow better than ever, you know, girl.
You are the answer to all of my dreams come true. You're lonesome out of this world.
Wow, that sure was great. But it's too bad how that terrible pandering rapping segment is only a small part of the song. You know what would be better? More terrible pandering rapping!
We got french fries, nachos, milkshakes to go, hamburgers, hot dogs, and mocha frappuccino.
Fast food, junk food, good food to eat, sour gummy worms. Can't be beat. Video games and computers online. Download, upload, instant message all the time. Hoverboard, surfboard, skateboard, and slams.
Extreme on a dream, and all just jam!
Yeah! So in a surprise, shocking twist of events, this show sucks. What were you expecting? Garbage visuals, bland plots, rapping? There was no way this was going to be good. But as I said, the humor wasn't terrible, Muldoon was sometimes alright, and just hearing Hades' voice come out of that thing was funny on its own. Overall, this show gets a 2 out of 10. So, the quality of the show was not shocking. But you wanna know what was shocking? The fact that this show actually has fans. I checked the comments section on the videos of the episodes I watched, and quite a few people seemed to actually like this show, and not even in an ironic way. There was even a video advertising a butt-ugly Martians fan club. You know, maybe I should check it out.